section chief is also on the call. We have Jennifer Bruneau, who is our project engineer, Melissa Chotner with Public Affairs and Community Partnerships, Michelle Ramirez, also with Public Affairs and Community Partnerships, and then Michael with Michael Huard, our park manager with Southern Parks. So just a couple housekeeping things before we get into our presentation. So this presentation will be recorded and will be posted on the project website sometime in the coming days. There is a Q&A box in the upper right of your screen. That is how you can share with us any comments, ask any questions about the project. We will be monitoring that throughout the presentation, and then there'll be a Q&A section at the end of the presentation. Additional comments can be submitted via Open Town Hall or by contacting the project manager. Some important links and contacts, and I think Michelle will be posting these in the chat, so no need to write these down, that you can access them in the chat. They're also on the project webpage. Our Open Town Hall link is where you can fill out a survey about the park project. We have the project website, which will have updates as the project moves forward through the timeline. And then I am the project manager, and you're welcome to email me or give me a call if you'd also like to ask questions or share your thoughts. So tonight's agenda, we're going to talk about the playground renovation program. Then we're going to look at Valleywood, the scope of work for this project, look at some playground equipment examples, address additional amenities and improvements to the park, and then have a chance for question and answer. So the playground renovation program in Montgomery Parks is, we feel that play is very important to a child's world and developing their cognitive, social, emotional, and physical skills. Children learn and explore. They manipulate their environment and interact with each other through play. So in that way, play is perhaps the most influential catalyst for growth and learning during early childhood. So here in Montgomery Parks, we have 275 playgrounds in our park system, and each is inspected monthly by a certified playground safety inspector. Comprehensive renovations are made through the Playground Renovation Capital Improvement Program, and the playgrounds in the current schedule for replacement are at the end of their useful life. So the Playground Renovation Program, we consider the life cycle of a playground to be approximately 20 years. And we have about, 120 playgrounds in the park system that are over that 20-year-old mark. The average cost for the neighborhood park playground replacement, similar to Valleywood, is about $250,000. And the current funding renovates about 6 playgrounds per year, and that currently equates to about a 46-year life cycle across the county. So when we prioritize our playground renovations, we're typically looking at these 5 criteria. So the first is a condition rating given for each playground. Next, we look at the age of the play structures. Wood playground equipment is something that we are prioritizing, renovating and replacing. And as you know, Valleywood does have wood play equipment. Our playground safety inspectors also can give priority to certain playgrounds based on their criteria for when a playground needs to be renovated or replaced. And then last but not least is equity, making sure that we are renovating playgrounds across all areas of our county, and making sure we're doing that equitably. So as far as code compliance, there is no federal playground safety law, but most states enforce a standard of care for playground safety. And the MNC PPC in Montgomery Parks follows the the following guidelines and standards when we design and renovate playgrounds. The first is CPSC, which is the Consumer Product Safety Commission, ADA, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act, ASTM, which is American Society for Testing of Materials, and finally IPMA, which is the International Playground Equipment Manufacturers Association. So before we get into the specifics of Valleywood Neighborhood Park, I wanted to share sort of our design and construction process, which is typical to most of our playground renovation projects. So first, we reach out to the community and we discuss community needs, and we also share the standards of our department. So that is what we are doing tonight in our community meeting. Next, we collect public comment. So we'll collect some comments tonight, but we will also be holding our open town hall, which I will share that link several more times on this presentation. And then once we have public comments, we will go into conceptual design. So we will begin designing the playground, designing the park, and we will share that back with the community through our project webpage and open town hall. Once we have a design that we are satisfied with, the community is happy with, then we can go towards construction. And so the construction phase includes construction documents, any necessary permits, ordering equipment, bidding the project with contractors, and then finally going into construction. So now we're going to look at Valleywood. And as I go through this presentation, if questions do pop into your head, please use that Q&A box at the top of your screen. And at the end of the presentation, we will have a chance to answer all of your questions and talk about any ideas that you may have for the park. So as many of you may know, Valleywood Neighborhood Park is a small park in a nice neighborhood between Georgia Avenue and Connecticut Avenue on the east and west, and then Weller Road to the south and Matthew Henson State Park. Currently, it's a small park with mostly just a playground. There's a public sidewalk and then a steep hill and a fairly steep a small climber with some slides, swings, and a seesaw. And then the property line is shown here, which is approximate, but it's largely the size of about 2 neighborhood lots. So here are some photos of the existing condition within the park. So as you can see here, this is a view from Valleywood Drive, and you can see the steep slope that separates the park from the street. Here is a photo showing the narrow and steep walkway and the wood retaining wall that provides access from the sidewalk into the park. And here's a look at the existing wood playground, which is installed with wood timbers, which is holding the engineered wood fiber, which is our protective surfacing. And so the proposed scope of work for this project is certainly to remove the existing equipment and provide new play equipment, to provide seating for parents and caregivers, to improve accessibility, the paved access from the street level up to the playground level, to look at some additional amenities, which we may be able to include in the project that may include a covered shelter or fitness equipment, a gathering space, or any other ideas that the community may want to bring up. Stormwater management, under drain underneath the playground will also be included as part of this project. And we haven't gone into design yet. That we're holding off on any design work until we hear from the community. But conceptually, this is the idea. This is one idea that we may move forward with for how the park could be laid out. So widening the walkway and lengthening the walkway will allow us to make a walkway that's not as steep and is much more comfortable and easy to access from the public sidewalk. That walkway could come up to a paved terrace that would, be a nice flat area to gather, but also would serve as a maintenance turnaround for any of our maintenance vehicles or staff that may need to access the site. The flat plateau will still be where most of the programming happens within the park. We have some room for 2 playground areas, but then also potentially some additional amenities. So now we're going to look at playground design. So the typical components for a playground renovation include protective surfacing, an accessible route, separation of activities for children ages 2 to 5 and 5 to 12, a mixture of activity types, seating for parents and caregivers, and maintenance access. So some play equipment that may be appropriate for children 2 to 5 years old includes enclosed swings, simple slides, crawl tubes, balancing activities, easy climbers, simple bridges, imaginary play elements, and interactive play elements. And some photo examples to inspire some creativity and inspire hopefully some discussion as well. For 2 to 5 elements, you can see here a spring toy on the left-hand side. In the upper right, some climbing and balancing elements. In the bottom right, a multi-user spinner where multiple children can sit on and interact with the same play element. Tunnels for imaginative play, simple slides, climbing and balancing elements on the bottom. Some play equipment that may be appropriate for 5 to 12-year-olds includes swings, more challenging slides, chain or cable walks, freestanding climbers, towers, horizontal climbers, parallel bars, vertical sliding poles, and spinning activities. So some photo examples of some play elements that may be appropriate for 5 to 12-year-olds. On the left-hand side, you can see a spinner here, some climbers, bridges, and towers on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side here is a structure that includes towers and some more challenging slides. On the upper right, you see a rope bridge that's sort of creating a tunnel. That can be a climbing element as well. And then in the bottom right, you see a multi-user swing. So another source of or point of feedback that we're certainly looking for is, a lot of this equipment can be highly customized as far as color, and there are so many different options out there, and we can certainly combine, different manufacturers, and we can also, combine different lines within certain manufacturers, and so color and style is something that we would love to hear some feedback on, whether it's tonight or in the open town hall. Certainly we can go really bright, warm colors, cool colors, or keep things really natural and go with some natural tones. So public input that is needed for the playground is, what are your priorities for activities and types of play equipment? Are there other playgrounds that have equipment or features that you or your children find particularly interesting? So are there other playgrounds or parks that you visited that you really enjoy the playground and you'd like to pick some features out of that playground to include at Valleywood? Are there play themes that are of interest to you? And as we just discussed, what color schemes would you like to see in the new play equipment? We're also looking at some additional amenities within the park design at Valleywood. It is a small park, but we think there's some room. One thing we did explore before we brought this presentation to the community was, how do we improve access and how do we improve the entry to the park? And so first, we knew we needed to address the steep and narrow walkway. So by lengthening the walkway, we can create a much gentler slope to access the park. Currently, the walkway exceeds 15% slope in some areas, and certainly we want to bring that way down and make this a more user-friendly access to the park. The next thing we wanted to do was widen the walkway, both for ease of access, but also to help with our maintenance access. So we'd provide a handrail to ease access and make that a more inviting way into the park. And so we did look at potentially lowering this park to potentially be down closer to the sidewalk and public street level. And so we knew there was some rock and some soil issues in the neighborhood. And so we did do a rock and soil exploration in the fall of 2022. And so if you're a neighbor who lives nearby, you might have seen some crews out taking some soil and samples and some borings, and did discover that we do have shallow rock or some other impenetrable, some other really solid items that are either buried or exist within the park. So we will not be able to do any significant excavation to lower the park down closer to the sidewalk level due to that shallow rock that was found. However, by lengthening that walkway, we provide a much improved some potential amenities that we could include at Valley. And I want to say up front, I think we all recognize that this is a small neighborhood park. So certainly we need to scale any additional elements to fit, on the site. But we do think there is room to include one or maybe two additional amenities in addition to a new playground. So I'm sharing a few ideas here: covered shelter with picnic tables, adult fitness equipment. We could even do some painted games or something similar on that paved terrace area at the top of the walkway. But if there are other things that the community would really like to see here at Valleywood, tonight or on the open town hall is a great time to share those. So public input needed for the additional amenities are simply, what additional amenities would you like to see in the park? Are there other neighborhood parks you like to visit? And what amenities do you use at those parks that would be valuable to have here at Valleywood Neighborhood Park? And then just in general, what additional improvements would enhance the park experience? So that might include easier access, which we've discussed, more seating, more shade, or a number of other things. So, tonight is a great time to share those. Again, I I welcome emails, phone calls, or there are areas to do open-ended responses on the open town hall. So with that, we are going to take some questions here in a few minutes. I want to remind everybody that the Q&A at the top of the screen is the best place to let us know your thoughts or ask any questions about the park project. And then Open Town Hall is another great place to provide feedback. So even if you attended this community meeting and provide your feedback tonight, we encourage you to still complete the survey and the open-ended questions on Open Town Hall. And this survey should be live tonight. So as soon as we're here off the meeting, you could go and fill out the survey, but it will be open for a month. So all the way through, the middle of February, you can complete this survey and share your thoughts with us. You're also welcome to forward this survey link to other neighbors, family members, and encourage them to share their thoughts on the park as well. So before we get into the Q&A, and now's a great time to type some questions up into the Q&A box, I just wanted to talk about the timeline. So we're here tonight in the winter of 2023 community meeting. We're also going to collect public comment via Open Town Hall throughout the next month. And then in the spring of 2023, we plan to develop the concept based on the community input, on our budget, on the Open Town Hall feedback, and then we will either use Open Town Hall or the web page to share that concept design back with the community. And then our goal is in the summer of 2023 to finalize the design, come up with a design that the community's happy with, that fits our budget and fits the constraints of the project site, and then work to develop construction documents. And then if all goes to plan, by the fall of 23, we'll be doing our permitting, our bidding for construction, and then beginning construction so that, once the weather turns nice after next winter and everybody back outside, there will be a beautiful new park here at Valleywood. So with that, I'm going to invite Tricia McManus, our design section chief, onto the call to take us through the Q&A.
Okay, thanks, Evan. Again, I'm Tricia McManus, and as Evan mentioned previously, our project team is on the call, and so we'll work together to address your questions and comments. And our team includes Jen Bruneau, our project engineer, and Michael Heward, our park manager. So, and I'm asking our team too, as we go through these questions, if anyone has, information they'd like to add as we, just to jump in. I'm gonna maybe direct some of these questions to specific staff, but I'd like everybody to kind of chip in and add comments as you have ideas. So again, keep posting them in the into the Q&A, and we'll get to all the questions and hopefully have a good discussion. So to start with, our first question and comment is, what are the ages that the park is designed for? And does the budget include money for landscaping? And so, Evan, I think you addressed like the playground ages, but the park is meant to be, used for everybody. And, yes, we would definitely include, trees and landscape as part of the improvements. But Evan, do you want to add to that?
I think you bring up a good point. We want this park to be for all ages. And so, playgrounds do mostly draw, 2 to 12 is the age range we designed for playgrounds. But, that's where the additional amenities come in, whether it's a gathering area that includes a covered shelter where, a neighborhood gathering could occur, spur of the moment, or a picnic on the weekends with all ages. We certainly want to see that happening in our parks. Whether it's adult fitness equipment that the neighborhood might be interested in and the community might be interested in, to help activate the park for more than just, that 2 to 12 age range. And then as far as landscaping goes, many may not know, but we are blessed in Montgomery Parks to have Pope Farm Nursery. We grow a lot of our own trees and landscape plantings. And so we will plan to work with them to make sure that we are adding some new trees into the park and, bringing some life, some natural life into the park when we're rebuilding the playground.
Okay, thanks, Evan. This next comment from Shay says that her toddler loves the Wheaton Library Park and especially the musical elements. And that's certainly a possibility, and we could include those kinds of things here. For Valleywood, you'd like to see more natural tones as it's in a shady area. So we'd love to hear. Make sure you give us all your ideas on the open town hall survey, but those are great comments that could certainly be incorporated. And then from Valerie is asking if we could include some native plants that invite butterflies, natural colors, and likes the plantings at Brookside. And I do think this park won't have gardens per se. I mean, they are sort of high intensity maintenance, but we could certainly include, I think we could certainly include native plants that are, appropriate for butterflies. And I'm not, I'd like to ask some of our team to respond to that. There may be opportunities to provide some planting, certainly trees and likely shrubs, maybe not extensive perennial plantings, but we do often, where we have stormwater management areas, have the opportunity sometimes to include bioretention or planted areas. Although I'm gonna sort of ask Evan to give his thoughts, and also Jen, on how we might handle stormwater management in this park, whether we would be doing bioretention or whether we might be doing infiltrating underneath the playground surface. So maybe if you could kind of address how we might provide planting and what we think we could include.
Yeah, I can start, Tricia, and then I'll hand it over to Jen. So as far as planting goes, we aren't in the design phase yet. We're kind of in the infancy of this project, and certainly on every project, we're looking to see how we can include planting in a sustainable way, because we want the planting to be easy to, relatively easy to maintain, and we also want it to be environmentally friendly, so it's not requiring watering or persistent maintenance. So I think the steep slope is somewhere we will look at to see if there's a planting opportunity on the slope that would also help our maintenance as well, and also provide some interest to the front of the park. But again, we're going to go through the design phase and see what's feasible, and certainly share that back with the community. And then Jen, as far as stormwater, I'll let you speak a little bit. I think we'll probably be infiltrating here, but I'll let you speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, because of the shallow rock in this area, we can't go very deep with bioretention. And obviously, the ideal situation is where your water can go back into the earth, and rock doesn't do that. So we will be infiltrating below the playground and then bringing it off-site. And it won't be a huge amount of drainage that we're dealing with, thankfully. Thankfully, we're on top of a hill, so that helps a lot. But it does make it challenging with the rock about how deep we can go with things, and the fact that we're not going to have any water get back to the groundwater table because we're on top of a rock. And as far as planting goes, we don't plant playgrounds. So, but we do plantings elsewhere. And I can't speak to that. I'm not a biologist, but we have people with those expertise in house who could think of plant species that would be good ones that are not crazy maintenance, but they're native and they're good for attracting butterflies and species like that.
Okay, thanks. And Michael, did you want to add anything to this about, we would definitely, try to keep the planting sustainable, and we may need to do some planting to stabilize some of the slopes, but, our intent is to, make sure that it's relatively easy to maintain, and it doesn't require, we don't really have gardeners and the staff to come in and take care of things that like we would at Brookside at most of our local and neighborhood parks. But I'm just gonna ask Michael if you'd like to add anything, but
Yeah, so actually right now we're looking at different areas that we're calling no mow areas. And the hill over there is actually a really good site. And what we're trying to do is either reduce our mowing on areas that are difficult, and that steep hill is like a real challenge to take care of. So what we're doing is we're planting a lot of wildflower and perennial ground cover. So that's something we can take a look at, and maybe I'll go by there with one of the naturalists and see what they think.
okay, wow, that's great. That would be a nice way to make maintenance easier, maybe if it's a suitable site. So that's great. Thank you. And a comment from Arthur that that the community refers to this as the little park compared to Wheaton Regional Park, the big park. And that's nice to hear. And we would like it to be more of a complete park, more than just a playground, if we can provide other amenities that make it a better place for everyone to spend time. Also about a comment about we need handrails up for the slope up to the park, and that would be our intent, and that there's poison ivy that needs to be cleared out of the back area. So is that something, Michael, that you've dealt with in this and other parks?
Yeah, the poison ivy, we try to work on that in the winter when it's not growing as fast and it's a little more dormant. But it takes off every year. It's a tough weed to get rid of, especially because in Montgomery County we can't use pesticides anymore. So it's an ongoing challenge for us.
Okay, thank you. And with the I don't know that Evan directly, I just want to address the slope up to the park, just to sort of add on to what Evan had explained in his presentation. And Evan, you might want to tag on to this, but we are definitely going to improve the slope up to the park. And in Evan's plan, where he was showing that angled walkway up to the playground area, the intent was to place that angle, start the bottom of the ramp on the high side of the roadway. The roadway in front of the park slopes. So if we start the entrance to the park up higher, we're already up a little higher than we were based on where the existing entrance comes into the park. So we have a little bit less grade to take up, but we will be able to, Evan, I think based on the initial grades we were looking at, we were thinking we might be able to make that slope about half as steep as it was before.
Correct. Yep. We're looking
Yeah.
at taking the slope and cutting it in half, which I think
Yeah.
is just a significant improvement. And then along with the widening of the walkway as well, and the handrail should be a significant improvement. But to your point, Tricia, you may see at some of our other parks that, ramps we're putting in are less steep than here at Valleywood. And even with the new and improved one here at Valleywood, but due to the rock, the shallow rock, and just the nature of the site, we're going to improve it as much as we can, and make it, I think, far better than the current situation. But you may still see some parks in Montgomery County where there are entry ramps that are even less steep than the one here at Valleywood, and we're just we're limited here by the shallow rock, and we're committing to the neighborhood to do the best that we absolutely can to improve access to the park.
Okay, thanks, Evan.
Yep.
A question here about lighting, that some of the older kids would come by here and smoke pot or do other things they shouldn't be doing in the park. And Michael, I might ask you about, how we deal with those kinds of activities. And we don't have park police on the call tonight, but we typically don't light our parks. Most of our parks are closed at night. So we wouldn't have plans to add lighting to this park. But, we actually, I don't know if we could put I think, Evan, you had mentioned you had coordinated with park police, and there was not like a history of calls to this park. So they had thought it was a pretty safe park compared to, many. And, we would certainly ask people, if you see activities in the park, to call park police and let them know if something's going on there. But does anyone want to tag on to that?
Yeah, I mean, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm sorry to cut in. I've never really heard too much activity going on at that park. I think the best thing would be for the neighbors to call park police when they're concerned, because when they do get those calls, they do come through, and then they'll make routine drive-bys more often if they do get the calls. I think that's the best advice I could give for that, because I think the kids are doing that activity more and more in these parks now.
Okay, thanks. I'm gonna when I get a moment, I'm gonna post the park police number in the chat. But we've got a comment about liking that idea about the wildflowers and the no-mow areas, and again concerns the way teens use the park, and what are the design principles that can be implemented to reduce the negative use of the park? That's a great question. We do have all of our designs reviewed by our park police and our entire project, stakeholders within the park system when we work on our plans, and they review it for what's called CPTED, which stands for Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. So the principles are, making sure there's legitimate use of the park, making sure visibility is open, and it could be a challenge, more of a challenge on a park, on a site like this, which is so high above the road, but it would be maintaining clear sight lines and, getting more legitimate activity into the area so that other people are there watching what's going on. So any other comments, or any other principles that I missed? I know there's lots of them for the crime prevention, but we do work closely with park police. And, when we do have park police on in our meetings, they would always encourage people to call if you see any activity that shouldn't be occurring in the parks. And I'm going to post this link
just
now, but if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I'll just add quickly. Even though we're landscape architects and engineers and designers, we certainly don't always have all the answers. So if the community members have feedback and suggestions on ways they believe that this park could be designed in a way that would help to reduce those negative uses, then that's certainly something that can be shared in the open town hall as well. So we're open to all feedback, and we'll explore it. We'll talk to park police about it, and we can go from there. So that's a great question. Thanks for asking it.
Yeah. Okay. And the next question is, are steps in addition to the ramp an option? And I would say yes. That's certainly something we could consider. There'd be a lot of steps. I'm not sure how high up above the grade that is, Evan.
Yeah,
But
we'd need 16 steps.
yeah,
It's an
but we
8-foot
could,
grade
I
change.
mean,
Yeah.
we could do that. We could definitely do that if that's an easier way up for, you know, some people. And, you know, the ramp might be easier for some, stairs could be easier for others, but we could,
Yeah.
yeah, we could definitely consider, you know, that as part of the plan.
And one thing that, you know, I'd love to also hear some feedback from the community on is, you know, we will have a ramp. And it probably, if we do stairs, we'd also have a ramp. So there'd be both. And then, you know, you have the issue of you've got a very small frontage onto the street, and a lot of it would be taken up with concrete infrastructure, you know, whether it's a ramp or stairs or both. So we're also trying to balance sort of the, you know, making sure the park still feels like a neighborhood park and not, you know, highly engineered along the sidewalk. So certainly love all this feedback, and it's something we'll certainly take into account.
Okay, thanks. We have some questions here. Are there choices of equipment limited by lawyers? And I would say, I don't think that there's, you know, any legal limitations to the equipment. However, as Evan stated, we follow the best practices for playground design, which are those guidelines that Evan, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the American Society of Testing and Materials, to make sure the equipment meets the current safety guidelines that are out there as a best practice for a public park system. You know, that's what we want to look at. And we're also looking for equipment that's durable, that, you know, will withstand heavy use, because what equipment that might be good for like a daycare or a site that gets limited use, we get a lot of heavy use of our parks. So we're looking for equipment that's heavy duty, that it's going to last for a long time. And we have many manufacturers that we choose from. So we look for equipment, you know, as Evan said, you know, our life cycle replacement, our funding is limited. So we don't, and you look at what's in the park now, it's been there for 30 years probably. So we don't get around to these renovations, these full park renovations, as quickly as we would like to. So we want to make sure what we put in is durable. And then comment here that the original name of the park was Candyland. I think that might be Candy Cane City down at Meadowbrook Park with red and white stripes, unless it was in this park too, but that could have been here as well. And then need shade and would appreciate signage by the sidewalk, and no herbicide used at all. I think there is a parks. Is there a park sign there right now, Evan and Michael? If not, we would make sure there's one there.
There's a park sign, but I'm wondering if the comment is would appreciate signage by street, sidewalk, and in park, encouraging no herbicide use at all.
Oh, no herbicide.
And I don't think we're currently using herbicides. I mean, maybe Michael can talk about whether we're using herbicides or pesticides, or we're not using herbicides and pesticides, or if one or the other is acceptable.
Yeah, we're not using any herbicides or pesticides anymore. The only place we use them now are on certain athletic fields that really require them. But I think that comment means a sign that says no herbicide, because I just had a new park sign actually installed there not too long ago. So I think that's what that comment was referring to.
Okay. And just in addition, like, we don't use any chemicals in our playgrounds anywhere. So I think Michael was saying that, but you know, with the engineered wood fiber, we're not using any herbicides anymore in those areas. So they're definitely not used in any of our playgrounds. From a kid's perspective, there used to be an old-fashioned seesaw. Then they replaced it with a safe seesaw. Yeah, the old ones were a lot more fun, or you could like go really high. But those are actually the current kinds of seesaws are the ones that meet the current safety standards. So those older seesaws, you know, if a kid got off, someone up high would bang into the ground and, you know, hit their tailbone. And so, yeah, those seesaws, the guidelines for safety on seesaws has changed over time. So, you know, they're not the way they used to be, but we, you know, we can still look for, there's a lot of fun equipment out there. So we're happy to hear, you know, the kinds of things you'd like to see and make sure we get some fun and challenging activities. And actually, a lot of the equipment now, it's the decks are a lot higher than they used to be. So you can go, even if you have a limited footprint, you can go pretty high with some of these structures and get a lot of challenge in a small amount of space. So hopefully we can get, you know, a really exciting playground for all of the ages. And also comment that a chin-up bar with stations and to test and challenge balance would be helpful. And went to the Little Park daily for 8 years. That's great. I hope we can make it better. And well, I know we can. So maybe if you could clarify, are you, the chin-up bar would be fitness equipment in addition to the playground equipment? So maybe further down, someone could clarify if you're like thinking it would be better, the chin-up bar is part of the playground, or is that something you're thinking would be good for adults? So maybe we'd like to hear if people are interested in adult fitness. And, you know, we're trying to make some, you know, selections in some of our newer playgrounds that provide things to do for all ages. And there's a new swing out there, which is, you know, called a multi-generational swing, where a parent can swing and face, you know, a child on one swing, and they can sort of swing together. So there's a lot of things out there that are new things we can think about. So I should explain, the safe seesaw barely went up and down off the ground, which is the entire way. Yeah, your daughter called it a dud. Yeah. So we can look at, I don't know, Evan, if you've looked at, I know that the sort of newer seesaws were more on springs rather than on the rotational axis. And I don't know if they've got newer equipment out that's different, but I know even some of the spring ones, they have the option to not only have kids on either end, but like to stand in the middle. But Evan, I don't know if you've looked at.
There's a lot of great
what's out
equipment
there.
out there.
Yeah.
I'm still not blown away by the seesaw options. I doubt they're as fun as the old ones, but they're certainly a lot safer. But there are a lot of really cool spinning elements. Children really love to spin. I don't love to spin anymore, but I know when I was young, I certainly did. So, you know, when we put out a concept plan down the road, I'm going to try to inject as much fun, challenge, excitement into the playground as I can, and then we'll get feedback from, you know, all of you and other community members on exactly, you know, what you like and what we might want to change. But certainly I'll look and see if we can find a seesaw that is better. But if not, then we'll probably replace it with something else that is just as fun.
Okay, thanks, Evan. And oh, this is a good comment that the ramp is used for sledding if we ever get snow. And that's a good thing to consider, although we're going to be making the ramps less steep, but the slope will still be there. But actually, even if the ramp is used in the future, it'll be a little bit wider, so it might be more useful for that purpose. But that is a north facing slope. Is that right, Evan? So it's a good the good exposure for snow. And then a comment here that equipment should be active, not passive. And no signage was about the park and encouraging use.
Yeah, I think he's just saying that the signs that he was talking about earlier, he or she, sorry, would appreciate signage by the sidewalk encouraging park use. So just, you know, letting people know the park is there and encouraging the use. So, you know, certainly we've got our park sign there, but we can look at how we locate that sign and if there are other, you know, park signs that we could include to encourage the use of the park.
Well, and if we get, you know, new and equipment that you can see from down below, you know, that hopefully, or new activities, you know, that could kind of draw people into the park as well. And, you know, we'd love to hear also if, you know, you'd like a picnic shelter would be good, or, you know, picnic tables and other kinds of things that would make the park more useful or make it a place people would want to stay. And here's a comment that yes, maybe, you know, adult fitness stations would be good too, and they're good for teens. So, oh, there's more good. Chin-up bars used to be 3 sizes, separately and gradually getting smaller each one. And the original park had 3 sewer pipes. You could run and jump and get on them and jump in between. Oh, that's interesting. Or probably crawl through them. So, you know, we can provide that kind of activity, but with different, probably better than sewer pipes now. But they were probably really fun. So, and here from Leanne, we bring the toddler to the playground nearly daily and are excited about the renovation. Would appreciate slide spinners and swings, including the multi-generational. Lots of shade already, especially compared to many other parks in the area. So color schemes, cool or natural, like the idea of wildflowers. So good, those are all great comments. So, and then a picnic table would be wonderful with a single grill. So let me ask about the grill. I'd like to sort of ask Michael, because I know the grills, you know, picnics would be good. If there's sort of from an operations standpoint, if there's, if we, you know, where we would we include a grill in a park like this? Because you'd have to come empty the coals and the ash. I'm not sure, you know, from the management perspective, where we put grills and where we prefer not to have them. Could you address that?
So typically we usually only put grills if there is a type of a shelter, like a picnic shelter. So if a shelter would go up, we would more than likely put a grill there. But other than that, that wouldn't seem like a park that we would put it unless there was either, yeah, the shelter or like a poured pad with picnic tables.
So it's maybe something, it's something we could consider, because we could easily provide a pad and or a shelter. I think, you know, so it's something we could, it sounds like it's something we could consider. We would have to make sure we get, maybe where it's located is in a place where you could access it. Because I mean, there'd probably be additional trash to be picked up and those kinds of things. But it sounds like if we did provide those kinds of activities, that perhaps a grill could be there. Is that right? Or,
oh yeah, definitely.
okay.
Yeah, we just don't usually just needs to be more amenities to add the grill, like to make it
Right.
more of a picnic area.
Okay.
But then, and then we also have to bring the fire department by to make it sure it's feasible for the area.
Okay. Okay. And that's a good point. I mean, this is kind of tucked into the neighborhood. pretty tightly. But so it's something we could look at, it sounds like, but
For sure.
so that's good.
Well,
So,
Tricia, I think we've got about 3 minutes left,
okay,
just a
okay.
heads up.
Okay. Any other, okay. Like the idea of a meditation area. We often go across the street to park at difficult moments to be outside among the trees. So that's a good, that's a
great.
good comment. So is there anything else and anything from our team that you would want to sort of that we didn't discuss, regarding like engineering issues or operational issues that, we would take into consideration that our team wants to bring up?
Well, I'll just take another moment to plug the open town hall.
Okay.
It's just one chance for all of your family, friends, community members to, have input into this park. So, tonight's meeting doesn't end, with, we don't call this the end of our community engagement. We'll be available by email, through the open town hall, by phone. So please reach out if you have other ideas.
And if you have other neighbors, who couldn't attend tonight, please encourage them to, send us their comments in whichever way people are most comfortable. So not everyone likes to go on and take a survey. If you want to contact Evan directly, feel free to do that, to, provide your comments that way, any way, you prefer. And also, if you have additional questions or comments that we didn't address well enough, or things you think of later, please feel free to reach out to Evan. So before we close, I would like to acknowledge, again, our other team members who've been supporting us on the call, especially Melissa Chotner and Michelle Ramirez from our public affairs office. They always run these Zoom meetings for us and make sure everything works smoothly, and we don't have to worry too much because they take care of everything. So thank you for your help. Thank you for the team, and thank all of you for attending tonight. We really appreciate your really great comments and questions and your thoughtful ideas. So we're looking forward to making a great park here. So Evan, do you have any final words to close the meeting?
I think you summed it up well. Just we really appreciate the community engagement, and we look forward to working with you over the next several months to design a great park for Valleywood. So thank you for your time on this slightly rainy Thursday night, and enjoy your Friday and the weekend. Thank you.